Hi there, Melanie. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast here to talk about all things healing and wellness. Yeah, it's great to see you, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat about all the things that you've been up to. So, yeah, welcome. How have you been? How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Cheryl, for your warm welcome. I'm very good, thank you very much. And I have been very busy treating patients with homeopathy and very busy with the foundation courses and year ones and twos and threes in the Shamanic Quest stable, if you will, of
Excellent.
courses. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, today we really wanted to I wanted to touch on your healing modalities. So I'm aware that you're practicing homeopath, aren't you, and practicing shamanic healer. Is that correct? Is that the terms that
That's
you use?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so so tell me a bit about your shamanic healing. We'll go with that. So what is it that you're up to? What are you running at the moment? You mentioned some courses. So what does that look like? Tell us a
Okay,
bit about
well,
shamanism, maybe to start with. Yeah. And what your
yeah,
practice looks like.
that's a really good idea. So I came into learning shamanism in 1991 with a man named Kenneth Meadows. And I spent 12 years working with him. And I remember the first workshop that I did with him, I just sat there nodding quite a lot, like the Churchill dog, because everything he was saying made complete sense to me as an experience of life and my experience of life. I think the thing that I very much like about shamanism is it's a nature-based, indigenous philosophy and wisdom. So it really teaches us how to live in harmony with the earth and all of the beings that we find sharing this beautiful planet with us, and also in harmony with the spirit of the planet herself, as well as the cosmic energies that we are governed by also. And so, yeah, it made a lot of sense to me, and it made sense of a lot of the experiences that I'd been having. So I bounced on from spending 12 years of learning with Ken to sort of doing my own personal practice for 8 years. And then I came into teaching because some people actually asked me to teach them what I knew. So that's how it all really started. And that was in about 2011 that I began teaching shamanic practices. And it started with a foundation course. So the foundation course itself lasts for a year. And we meet every month. And within that time, it's a real sort of spiritual personal development course. So not only are the participants learning about various shamanic practices, but they're applying those shamanic practices to themselves. And so what that does is gives them the opportunity to go on a year-long cycle of self-discovery and reconnection. And so there's all of the different reconnections of self, the many different parts of self that we have that we can reconnect with and communicate with and bring that into balance. Because mostly in this world that we live in at the moment, it's quite a disconnected and a disconnecting world. And so the healing comes when we bring our connections back to ourselves, and then also the connections with all of the beings around us. So that's people as well as animals, plants, trees, elements, all sorts really. So we spend a year on that sort of deep initiation, if you will, to find ourselves and to step into our personal power and to actually come to understand what our unique gift is in this world that we can express, and the joy of doing that. And then for the second year, we move into learning about the runes, which is more of our indigenous learnings and wisdom. And we also learn how to help others through the practices that we learn in the foundation course. And then in year 3, we consolidate that even further and have more and deeper opportunities to connect. So we would be looking at vision quests and various other shamanic techniques to deepen the connection to our spirits and guides and nature particularly. So also with the shamanism, I do individual counselling sessions, and with those, they're very popular. So with those, I get to help people on that spiritual level, guided by their spirit as to what they really need. So for example, somebody might come with a painful knee or an emotional problem, and I don't diagnose, and I don't pretend to know where the underlying issue is. Through a level of communication, I speak to, or I get information from their spirit that tells me what I need to do in order to bring healing back to those parts of the person. So it's very much spirit-led, it's not a mind-led process. And so what we do in that is we come into what's known as the field of energy, where all information is and where we are all connected at an energetic level. And through the field, we can work to bring this healing about together. So that's kind of where I am with the shamanism at the moment.
Yeah, sounds great. And you've been running the Shamanic Quest course for a number of years now, so it sounds like you've really it's well established. And you run that in Bedfordshire, don't you? It's run physically, it's not online. Is it online or?
No, it's not an online course. So yes, we run physical workshops and courses out of the Clophill Centre in Bedfordshire, and to support that and to bring another element of connection, I also run 2 evening drum circles a month and also a morning drum circle a month for people who can't attend evening sessions. Okay. And we also celebrate the Earth Wheel celebrations. So for example, the solstices, the Sabbats, the equinoxes. So that gives us a beautiful chance to come together and have some fun, some ceremony, and reconnect in community.
Excellent, lovely. So thanks. That's great. That's really interesting. So a bit more sort of kind of back to the heart of the process and the practice for yourself. Would you mind just giving us a bit of info about how your health's been and your healing process has been affected by the practice? What depths have you found? What healings have you found personally from your practice? Would you be comfortable talking about some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So well, interestingly, so I came into shamanism in 1991, and during that time I've had all sorts of quite serious health issues, but luckily through my practice they have disappeared, which is great. Fundamentally, I think that the healing comes spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then physically. Mm-hmm. And I think my practice that I learned with Kenneth has enriched my life in so many ways. It's helped to inform me in my decisions in life, really helped me to bring up my family as well, because I could access good quality information through myself with the techniques that I've learned. So come more to the truth of the matter as opposed to trying to logically think things through. Interestingly, I found myself having a major operation in 2018 for quite a serious condition. And I reached out to a man called Sal Gencarelli in South Dakota. And I went to his property for healing in the Black Hills through a particular ceremony, which is a vision quest of sorts, but mine was a healing one. And there was a lot of preparation to go out into that healing ceremony. Many sweat lodges, about 8 or 9 sweat lodges. And then I spent about 36 hours in this ceremony. And when I came out of the ceremony, I was back to my old self. So it was like my mind had clarity again. My emotions were settled. I had energy. I felt strong, none of which I had going into the ceremony. But also, from the operation I'd had, there was a certain amount of symptoms in my body that I had, numbness where nerves had been cut and that kind of stuff. And that had reduced by 75%. So I regained feeling in a lot of areas. And the areas that still stayed a little bit sort of numb, still they had some feeling in them. So that was an incredible experience for me. And on the back of that, I did another 16 monthly ceremonies to really consolidate that healing. So yeah, I've met some incredible people. I've had amazing experiences in South Dakota, in Ecuador, working with Indigenous shamans. I worked with an Indigenous shaman from South Africa as well, and also Scandinavia. So I feel like I was really fortunate to be able to pull on those ropes of connection, if you will, when I really needed them most. And again, all underpinned with my private practice and being guided by that as to where to seek the help that I needed.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really great. That's great news. So I just wanted to pick up on something that we've actually spoken about before, and I think it's important to touch on it. You talk about drawing the wisdom and the learnings and the teachings from in Indigenous cultures around the world. What about our British Indigenous cultures? We must have had shamanic practices that have been lost, I believe. So yeah, do you incorporate anything from the British Isles with your practice? Is there anything you can pick up from that you use?
Yes, so there are things that I do incorporate, and the Earth celebrations are a big part of that. That's very British and Northern European. And also, you know, I think what we need to do is remember that when the Romans came here, they killed nearly all of our shamans. I think that there was just a few left in Anglesey. As far as I'm aware, there might still be some lurking around there. If I listen out for that information. But on the whole, they did a really good job of removing so much of our own Indigenous knowledge and wisdom. And yet I feel that that was kind of kept going in the wisdom of women through the, and probably men as well, but we know it was women because of the witch trials that surrounded that Indigenous wisdom that was really focused on women. But I'm sure there were men doing that as well. But we also need to remember that we had the Danes come over. And when they came over, they would have brought the runes with them. Now, we have our own runic tradition here, and the overriding kind of god of the runes in this country is Woden, whereas in Northern European it's Odin. So
Yeah.
there are some differences there, but I do incorporate the Scandinavian and the Northern European traditions into my work, and I work with them all of the time. The runes themselves are incredible. They're around us all the time. They're moving through us all the time. They are energies that bring life forward, and they work at the quantum level. And so as they move through, by consulting with the runes, we can see how the energies are moving. Then working with them, we can change the possible outcome to something that is flowing more in balance and harmony with our needs. And they'll just give us information and also strength to find in certain situations that we might find in our life.
Yeah.
So I do bring some of our British Isles tradition into my practice and what we learn. However, I am aware that I'm not the font of all knowledge, and there is still much to learn. And so, we are on this amazing and incredible learning journey of growth for our spirit on this amazing spaceship planet.
Hurtling through the galaxy.
Yeah, exactly. And until we give our final breath back to the earth, we should still be learning and growing. And I thoroughly enjoy learning more and experiencing more. It's that old saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. Indeed.
Yeah.
Very much the case. But yeah, I think that's an issue that's kind of with me a lot, and I think through my music as well, through what I love to sing and what just music I love to play with, the old traditional folk music and folk dancing. I danced with a Morris side for a few years, and there's something very ancient about that land energy.
Absolutely.
About the patterns we make on the earth. It feels so ancient and connected, and it's just getting lost. It feels like it's really getting lost, and there's such an importance to reconnect with our land, and through medicine, through dance, through music, through art.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I absolutely love Morris dancing, and as you say, I love the connection that brings. Dancing and movement is so important in shamanic practice, and I'm using the word shamanic as a coverall, really. It's a blanket term, because all indigenous wisdoms have their own term for it, and they have different terms for the people who practice it. So we're just using that name as a blanket approach. And as I say, the movement is so important in so many indigenous cultures, and the movement itself will move energies. So it's almost like spirit is guiding us to move these energies through us to bring balance and harmony back into the land, or wherever. And it might not even be your land, it might be somewhere else in the universe, we don't know. But when we're moved to dance in that way, and that expression comes through us, it has an otherworldly quality, doesn't it? Singing and dancing, when the spirit is moving through, is very, very different. Definitely. So these are really, really important. And with the Morris, there's the rites of passage that go on there. There's the welcoming in for fertility. There's the driving out of unhelpful spirits, shall we say, in all of the movements that they're dancing. And so I'm a great supporter of Morris, and I just love being around it. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah,
it's good fun. It's really good fun. So the dances that are danced, they're very mathematical and geometric, and the shapes that are danced throughout the dance are they're patterns, and it always used to feel like we were conjuring, with these patterns and shapes. It's something very deep. There's something very connected there. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, so I mean, some drumming music. So you run the drum circles, so there must be a lot of good that comes out of that when you come together as a community and drum together. That's powerful stuff, isn't it?
It is very powerful. The drum itself is a gift to humanity from the spirits. Like every culture has drumming on the whole. And so it's not linked to any one area. It is a major tool of connection. And equally, internally, it's a major tool of connection. So it changes our brainwave patterns. And it brings healing mentally, emotionally, and physically as well. And so by drumming, we can really change our energy pattern, how we're feeling, how we're experiencing our moment. So we can come in, really disconnected from being junked up from our experiences in the world. Half an hour of drumming and singing, and the singing itself and the drumming as well, it's not a choreographed type of drumming and singing. It's not really percussion based in its approach. It's allowing the songs to sing you. It's allowing the drum to drum you. And so it's a very organic and dynamic process. It's not one where we necessarily, unless there's a particular reason for it, keep a particular beat. And yet there's this entrainment that happens where we can make these incredible harmonies and beats. And then within that, very often there's other sounds that come in. So we might have more otherworldly chanting and singing. There can be other instruments that sound like they're coming in, like pipes and flutes. That happens regularly. And then at the end of the drumming, everybody is so much uplifted and improved. It's a beautiful thing. And there's research on how good drumming is for mental health. It works on the reticular activating system, which is a collection of neurons in the brain. And that collection of neurons governs some of our circadian rhythms. It governs things like digestion and elimination, our heartbeat, our libido. So getting that back into balance is really going to have a holistic healing opportunity for us.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's really something to be said in the power of coming together tribally. There's that tribal essence that's so very missing in the UK. I feel that anyway. I can't speak for everybody, but coming together to sing and dance, from my experience, has a very real magic in it. There's something that happens when we collectively get together and we become one and make sound and make movement. And I was reading recently, I need to find the paper, but I don't know how true it is, but I will find out. But apparently when we all sing together in a group for a long enough period, our heartbeats synchronize. So I mean, the theories there are, like I say, I'll have to check out the research, but what a wonderful idea. I mean, and if that is true, then how powerful and healing is that? That's amazing, isn't it?
It really is, and it makes sense that would happen. Again, it's this principle of entrainment, and we see that actually with ladies who live together because their menses start to come into synchronization as well. Yeah. So there's this sort of law of harmonics in the universe, where the universe actually wants harmony. It's promoting harmony to a certain extent. And so then when we come together, the laws of harmonics start to work through. which it's a very beautiful thing to experience, for sure. And fundamentally, it's who we are as human beings. We are a gregarious bunch on the whole, and we do better when we are in community.
We do.
We just do, yeah. And so if we take a look at someone like the Bushmen of the Kalahari, they live in their community. They're very connected in that way. They will have weekly gatherings where they will dance and make music. And then when it's time to hunt, because they're so in tune with nature and the animals, they will know when the animal is ready for them. And so the men will get up and just say, oh, it's time to go hunting. And then they literally, it's like they follow their noses. They're following the energy lines to this animal. And Westerners, when they go with them, they're like, well, where are we going? And they're like, well, we're going this way. Well, why are we going this way? Because that's where the animal is. They're not tracking it so much on the floor. They're feeling where it is. And then they might say, so, okay, we've been walking for a day and it's just over that hill now. And then when they go over the hill, there it is. So there's, you know, the more we come into connection and the more connected we are, the more the otherness can move through us. And so it becomes a really beneficial reciprocal relationship between us and spirit, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. So just on that note, being open to energies moving through us, I feel that there's if we see it that way, that there would be a need for potentially protection, because how do we know what's moving through us is safe and what isn't? Being open like an antenna waiting to receive any transmission, how do you as a practitioner make sure that you're safe, grounded, and that nothing nasty is coming through? Because potentially it could be, if we work on the, you know, the hypothesis that there is light, there is dark, and everything else out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. So certainly when people come to learn how to connect in the workshops, I hold a very protected space with specific intentions. And I'm also calling in specific spiritual beings to help. So I'm asking my connections to come in and help hold this space, so that the most healing and beneficial connections can be made. So so people generally tend to find when they come into the course is that they can find their connections without too much interference. Now, there are some ceremonies where you might not want to block out everything. You might want to let everything come. That would be for a specific reason. And again, that would be well held. But on the whole, it's really so I offer a set of protocols for people to follow, and with their intention, and bringing in different helpers, so that they can start to learn what it is that they are connecting to. And that's a felt sense in the body as well. Like, our body is incredible. It has incredible spidey senses. So, you know, if you get that feeling like something's not right, maybe something's not right, and trust that. You know, this isn't a mind exercise, although the mind is a very good tool and we need that. But the body will tell us so much as well, and our emotions. How does this feel? And you can stop the connection at that point if you feel like it's not the right one for you. So it's it's really, that's something that is part of the development of a person as they move forward, having that discernment and learning the skills needed.
Yeah, self-awareness, self-knowledge, and then
Yeah,
you become aware, because often we walk around, generally speaking, the human walks around completely unaware of how they're actually feeling and what's going on, because they're so distracted by the buzz of everyday life. So I suppose, yeah, it's really about coming into connection with that, isn't it? Coming back to ourselves, coming back to
yeah,
how do
very,
we feel
very,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, very, very important. And there's a lot of cultures who are still very aware of the energies that are flying around them. And so an example of a type of protection for that would be the evil eye, to try to ward off any energy, if you will, that's being sent their way consciously or unconsciously. Because we can fire detrimental energy to people through our thoughts. Energy follows intention. And so, yeah, just sometimes somebody looking at you with the thought that's going through their head, that can actually hit you on an energetic level, and you won't know where it's come from. So to have to be wearing something, so certain colors, certain emblems, certain crystals, being able to work with your aura, making sure there's no tears in it, having a regular practice, maybe with candles or eggs to clear that, doing sweat lodges regularly. There's all manner of things to protect ourselves with, and also to clear it out as well. Sometimes a crystal extraction may be required, but you do feel a lot better after it. Having a really good grounding practice is really helpful also. I think, as you said, mostly in this country or in the West, we're conditioned out of knowing ourselves, and we're conditioned into giving that power to somebody else to tell us, like, if I ask somebody, how do you feel, very often they can't identify the feeling, and we have to go through a process so as they start to become aware of how they're feeling. So if you can know yourself, and again, this is part of the process that I take people through, knowing yourself, then you know when something's awry, and you can take action sooner rather than later. Honestly, my experience of being connected is such a beautiful thing. It's so centering, and the experience that I have of the world is very different when I am connected in myself and grounded in myself, compared to those times, which happens for all of us, when I'm not so connected, when I am disconnected for some reason. And there's a lot in this world that wants to disconnect us.
There is.
Our culture is a traumatized culture. That's very disconnecting. And if our culture is traumatized, our education, our politics, our pundits, our families, our loved ones, like, we're all in the soup together. And really, as we start to heal ourselves, it has this ripple out effect, and it starts to heal all of these other aspects in our lives and these other people in our lives. And ultimately, what we're looking for is a cultural repair. So we have a culture that is connected and supportive and loving, as opposed to what seems to be the case at the moment. On the whole, I know there's pockets that aren't like this, but on the whole, it's very disconnecting. It's very isolating. It's very disempowering. And none of these are really healthy ways forward.
No, we need each other. Absolutely. I truly believe that. And that we need that element of tribe and that element of belonging, feeling like we belong to something. And society isn't set up for that unless you perhaps want to belong to a football team or some superstar kind of cult, you know, there's no real sense of belonging. It's all very superficial, isn't it? What we're searching for is true tribe, I believe. That's why
Yeah.
people are so drawn to things like football teams, I suppose. And yeah, but it's very, very much missing. So if somebody was curious to find out a bit more about having some kind of shamanic experience or practice, where would be a good place for them to start, do you think, if they've never come across it before and they're curious and they just want to do a bit of digging or want to have an experience?
Well, certainly I'd be very happy to have a conversation with them about that. My website is melanietomsett.com. And within that website, there's a section on Shamanic Quest. And so I offer introductory workshops. The drum circles are a great place to start as well, and the ceremonies. And then from there, if they're interested in learning more and deepening their connection with themselves, with nature, with these incredible techniques that we have to offer, there's the foundation course that they can attend. But equally, there are some other really great people to investigate. So the books by Kenneth Meadows are fantastic. Leo Rutherford, Eagle's Wing, super guy, great books that he's written also. Helpers Mentoring Society in America, they're fantastic. A lady called Sandra Ingerman, Michael Harner. These are practitioners that have a lot of integrity and a lot of experience. I have seen some, online courses where you can do a few sessions, which I suppose might be helpful, but then you're sort of, I don't know where you'd get insurance to practice, but they say that you can go and practice on other people and stuff. But I'm not sure if that's the wisest decision.
Right.
Whereas particularly when we talk about community and being with other people, shamanism on the whole isn't such a solitary practice. And the energy that we create when we come together and our hearts and minds are one, that's an incredible unifying and supporting environment. And your ability to learn more will be exponential when you've got a group of people around you learning too. The other person I'd like to mention, particularly if you're looking at runes, would be a man called Andreas Cornevale. And he's very, very helpful. He does some great courses on runes as well. He and I work together sometimes also. He lectures. He is a great storyteller. The myths in our culture are really, really important. And the myths, he has a saying, and it's the myths always are, they never were. And this is how they play out. They play out in our lives. If we understand the language of the mythology, it really is connected to the human condition. All of these great stories are connected to the human condition and what we go through. The labyrinth itself is a great example of actually how the human mind and psyche works, how we go into the depths of an issue to find the wisdom that we need to learn through the pain of that, and then how we come out of that with newfound gifts and awareness. So yeah, he's a great guy to listen to and to work with also.
Okay, well, what we can do is we can sort of collate a list, and I can put that information somewhere in the video so people can have a bit of sort of some resources there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So homeopathy as well. So another healing modality that you work with is homeopathy, isn't it?
It is homeopathy, yes.
Excellent. And I've had some treatment from you in the past, and you are an amazing homeopath.
Thank you.
Full of knowledge and wisdom. So a lot of people don't know what homeopathy is, do they? It's one of those kind of, you hear the term around, but I think it's not really in the mainstream, is it? I think it's becoming more and more popular now. It's more popular than it ever was, I believe, from what I've sort of see on the internet. But so how long have you been practicing homeopathy? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I first came to homeopathy when I was 17.
Oh.
I was in a health food shop, and I was having a look through the books, and I saw this book on homeopathy, and I started reading. I thought, gosh, that's interesting. And so I bought myself some homeopathic remedies, and with my little book and my little kit, I started treating myself at home for various acutes, upset tummies and coughs and colds. And then through my pregnancies, I was using homeopathy to support my pregnancies and my birth for 3 children, which was absolutely fantastic and so helpful.
Mm.
And then my middle daughter, she had something going on with her leg. Whatever it was eating the flesh away on the side of her calf.
Oh.
And over a period of a month, it was really causing a lot of problems. So we went from the doctors to the hospitals, ended up at Great Ormond Street. And it was just eating away at her leg. And so they were going to do a biopsy on it sort of 2 or 3 weeks later. And I decided to take her to a professional homeopath. And he gave her a remedy. And by the time we got to having the biopsy done 2 or 3 weeks later, it was all calming down. It was reducing in size. It was healing, because it had this horrible pattern that it would follow, but that was all reversing. And at the biopsy, they couldn't really find what the problem was. But within a month, it was all gone. And, all the potions and lotions and stuff from the allopaths hadn't helped at all. So I was so impressed by that I decided to go and learn about homeopathy. I'd also done a shamanic journey. Mostly in shamanism, we work with plants to help people, herbalism, that kind of thing. But I was guided to work with homeopathy, and the roots of homeopathy come from shamanism. In the 16th, 17th century, there was a German physician called Paracelsus, and he spent 2 or 3 years kind of roaming around Northern Europe, working with local shamans and medicine people. And he very firmly came to believe that that's where true medicine was lying. It wasn't lying in the development of what we now know as allopathy or modern medicine. So I was guided to go and learn homeopathy to support my shamanic healing as well. So I did a 4-year degree in that. And what I learned actually about homeopathy was that it began in the 1700s with a German physician called Samuel Hahnemann. So he was practicing at a time when we had what's known as heroic medicine. And so what he found with his heroic medicine, even though he was a trained physician, he spoke several languages, and he was a chemist as well. So the liquid mercury that you find in a thermometer is called Mercurius Hahnemanni. So he created that. So a very, very intelligent man. And what he saw through his medicine was that people survived better if he didn't actually treat them.
Okay.
So he stopped practicing allopathy and spent 10 years doing some other work and translating. And during that time, while he was doing some translation, he came up with the idea of homeopathy, which means similar suffering.
Oh.
And he spent many, many years refining and learning and experimenting with this similar suffering concept and helping people. And so that's what we have, that's what we work with on the whole moving forward into modern times. So it's an ancient, it's quite an ancient system of medicine. It's a global system of medicine. It's been in Europe for all of that time. It went to India as well. India is hugely popular with homeopathy, and they have their own government department for homeopathy.
Oh, really?
And they have a lot of hospitals out there and teaching colleges. It was big in America as well, and the first female physician was actually taught in an American homeopathic hospital.
Oh.
So in 1948, when the NHS was at its inception in this country, the homeopaths were invited to join the NHS, and they donated 5 homeopathic hospitals to the NHS. And homeopathy has been available in the NHS ever since, and it's still available in the NHS now. It can be tricky to get hold of because the local health authorities very often don't want to fund the practice of it, but it is available. So actually, although it seems and it appears to fall in and out of favour, it's been here all along. It's been here all along. And I think there's about 5,000 practicing homeopathic GPs in this country. And we have a group called the Faculty of Homeopaths. And to be a member of the Faculty of Homeopaths, you have to be a medically qualified person. So you will have GPs, nurses, midwives, surgeons, anyone that you can think of, and they are all prescribing homeopathy.
Yeah, I know a surgeon that's a homeopath. Yeah. I was surprised when I found out because I was a bit ignorant to the fact that the two of them are conjoined, as you've just explained. But yeah, he's a surgeon and a homeopath. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, when I was in Ecuador, I met this amazing man. Now, he's a trauma surgeon and a homeopath. And he was building a specific trauma hospital in Ecuador that was treating trauma patients with homeopathy as well. And actually, and interestingly, during that crazy period of 2020 in Ecuador, they decided that they wanted to treat the whole population with allopathy, and they wanted to ban all other medicine. So they tried to stop the population from using their own herbs, their own shamanism, stop using homeopathy. And this trauma surgeon, he actually went to court, and he fought to be able to treat people with homeopathy, which he won. So it's an incredible story that this guy has. So yeah, it's not well spoken of, not for the last 10 years or so, but like you say, it's having another revival now. It's more in the public eye again, which is great news. Great news.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people that are watching that don't really fully understand or don't have any idea of what homeopathy is, would you be able to give us an overview, a very kind of simplistic overview of how the medicine works and the principles of it and how you can apply it?
Yeah, okay. So in homeopathy, we treat the vital force. Now, the vital force is what's there when you're alive, and it's what's missing when you're dead. So the vital force moves through your body, and it keeps everything working in balance and harmony, just keeps everything going. So it's almost your life force energy. And so what we tend to do, because we're treating the vital force, we're treating the person, we're not treating necessarily named symptoms. Now, people might come to us with named symptoms, and that's a name that's been given to a collection of symptoms, but we're still going to treat the whole person. So we're going to take information on how you experience the world and how your life has been up until this point and what got you to this point. So we take this kind of big case to try to understand what's going on for you. And we also look at the symptoms that you're having as well, and we don't take them in isolation. So the symptoms are the language of the vital force. And so it appears that when the vital force finds itself out of balance because of a challenge that it's had and it hasn't been able to resolve it, it puts the energetic imprint of that disturbance somewhere in the body or somewhere in the mind. And so, yeah, you might get this swollen knee and be really irritable. And it's this vital force saying, I can't actually heal that. I don't know, I can't heal it. I don't recognize it. So I'm going to put it somewhere else in your body. And it likes to try to put it as far away as it can from organs of importance. But sometimes it can't do that. But it tries to do that. So what we find is that when we have a homeopathic medicine, it's an energy medicine. It has a frequency. It has a vibration. And the way that we generally tend to find out how a medicine works is going through a set of scientific research called provings. So we might give a remedy to some fairly healthy people repetitively over a short period of time, and actually they start to have symptoms. And so we log all the symptoms and make sense of what they are experiencing. So now we know that a particular substance will create these symptoms in a healthy person. We know what it can cure in a sick person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what could be an example of that? So arsenic's quite a nice example of that. Not that we've given arsenic to people, but people have generally poisoned themselves with arsenic, and poisonings are very well documented. So we know that people who have been poisoned with arsenic have terrible tummy problems, there's lots of bleeding, there's lots of fear, pretty sure they're being poisoned. You know, it's very well documented. There's a lot of symptoms in arsenic poisoning. So what we find is that somebody who has these particular type of stomach symptoms, and they haven't had arsenic, they haven't got an arsenic poisoning, they haven't been anywhere near arsenic, and yet they've got the symptoms of that. And it could be from eating dodgy food, it could be from some sort of gastroenteritis, bug or something. But it's got these specific qualities and symptoms to it that we know arsenic causes in people. If we give that in potency, which is not the same as taking arsenic, it's very safe, very small dose. But if we give that in potency to that person, it makes the body recognize the problem and it has to heal the issue.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're overlaying one frequency of vibration over another one, and the vital force sees the artificial one and it heals it. But because this is vibrating at the same rate, it has to heal it at the same time.
Yeah, it's like they match, so it's like
they match, so the vital force heals it. Yes,
heals the complete thing.
Yeah, so that's the current thinking of how that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's all homeopathy derived from plants. It's plant medicine essentially, isn't it? Is that right? Or not?
No. So
Okay.
You can make any remedy out of anything that you can think of. So we've got stuff from the poisons. Well, we've got stuff from the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the human kingdom. We've got remedies that are made up of elements from the periodic table. We've got remedies even like dolphin song and Berlin Wall.
So you're taking the vibration, the essence of anything, and condensing it down and using it to treat. Is that right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Essentially. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So we like sometimes we have to take quite a big case to help someone, and sometimes it can be quite a smaller case. So if it's an acute, so something that's quite self-limiting, like a cough, a cold, a tummy upset, bit of fear of flying, that kind of stuff, we could take a very small case and match the remedy to that. But if it's something that's quite chronic, we can take a bigger case, and it sometimes takes a period of time to get the body to come back into balance. But we can never really know how long that's going to be. We have to start the treatment and see how you respond, and then analyze and adjust, and sometimes even change the remedy. So there's quite a lot for the homeopath to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really is about treating the person, which is not what you get when you go to a GP. It's not what we get when we go along to the doctor with an issue. They're only going to look at that one issue and nothing deeper and nothing wider and nothing beyond. And often that will come back and come back and come back because we're not dealing with the root issue, are we? Which is where the magic of homeopathy comes in, isn't it? That we're looking at you as a whole, which is what I love about it, which is what I love about the concept and the practice of it. Not that I know anything about it, but I understand as much to know that I'm being seen holistically and not as the GP would see me for a cut on my finger. Well, there's something deeper than that. There's always something deeper with me anyway, so I think that's why I'm drawn to it. There's more to be, there's more than what we see, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah. So for example, if you kept having accidents, like we all have accidents, but if you were what's called accident prone, and you can fall over a grain of sand and knock your teeth out or something, if these things keep happening, then we need to have a look at something much deeper. Because you're not grounded in your body for a start. Something's knocked you out, and then it's like, well, how do we get you back in? What's needed here?
So we look at the whole person, the experience. So I mean, the two seem to probably tie beautifully together, the homeopathic approach and your shamanic practices. There's that similarity in the holistic, treating the whole, working with the whole being, working with the individual, which is really beautiful. I think it's a really beautiful thing, and we need more of it, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. They do support each other really, really well. There are many roads to healing, and these two modalities, along with good nutrition, good sleep, good sex, that all of those things that enrich our lives and support our bodies. Then alongside the homeopathy and the shamanism, we can really do very personalized treatments for people. You know, and sometimes like epigenetic stuff can be causing problems. So with the shamanic counseling that I do, we might be looking at something going on in your past life energy that's come forward, or we might be looking at an ancestral problem that's come forward. We might be looking at some inner child work that needs to be brought back, and or a piece of a soul fragment that's gone awry and needs to be brought back. Or maybe there's a depletion and we need to bring something back to stop the depletion, but maybe there's something in you that shouldn't be there, so then we can do something to remove that. All the while supporting all of that as well, sometimes with the homeopathy or with deeper connection practices. So I think what I really like about the homeopathy and the shamanic practices is that I walk alongside my patient or my client. I walk alongside them, and I'm helping to empower them to come on to their healing path, because really I can't heal anybody. I can only assist them in their healing. And so I have to take 100% responsibility for my 50% of that relationship, but they need to take 100% responsibility for theirs as well.
Yeah, that's a key word, isn't it? I think more and more now I'm really seeing, especially since the episode that we had in 2020 where everybody's health was really kind of in the spotlight. It really is about taking responsibility for ourselves, and that's where our power is, and people need to see that. I believe you become powerful when you decide you're going to help yourself and find your own answers.
Absolutely. And and it's joyful to me that there are so many other disciplines that you can work with as well. So I'm not saying that homeopathy is absolutely right for everyone 100% of the time. Somebody just for some reason might not like that, but the joy is that we have nutritional therapy, we have TCM acupuncture, there's so many other modalities for us to explore and bolt together so that we have the best possible system of medicine for ourselves. Because we're as a homeopath and a shaman, I deal in the uniqueness of people. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for pharmaceutical medications. There's certainly a place for surgery as well. Like, everything has its place. But the philosophy with pharmaceutical medicine, until very, very recently, where they're just beginning to get a little bit individualized now, is they want one remedy that cures everyone. So if you look at paracetamol, they know that if it's going to work, it's good for headaches, you know, or it's good for certain pain. And they know that if they have a cohort of people, the majority are going to respond to that one drug in a very similar way. So looking for one drug that does everything all the time in a whole group of people. Whereas with shamanism, homeopathy, herbalism, that kind of thing, we're looking for the one drug that's going to sort you out. It might not be suitable for your friend next door and your Auntie Mabel and, you know, your boyfriend, and, you know, it's the one that's going to sort you out.
Yeah.
And if you gave it to somebody else, it might not work for them because it
Sure.
doesn't fit their unique symptoms and their unique experience of life. And so that's what makes us different as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's really a wonderful thing. It's really a wonderful thing, and we need, I feel like I want to see more of it, and I want to see more people discovering their own power and taking their own power back with their health.
It's just such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing to witness the peace and the joy of someone in their own power.
Yeah, yeah, and for
Incredible.
myself as well. Yeah, for myself, I want it for myself and for everybody. So yeah, it's interesting times. But um, on another note, we talked a bit about previously about CPTSD, and you're doing some work with an organisation at the moment, aren't you? Do you want to talk a bit about that, maybe? Because that's quite an interesting project, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting project. So I have been working for over 2 years now with a CIC company called Recovery Codex. They have been based in Bedford and Bedfordshire, and they are hoping to move to a more national presence now. But the ethos of Recovery Codex is to help women at the moment. They're hoping to move to men too, just need the facilitators for that. But they're primarily helping women with mild to moderate CPTSD through group work.
Okay, should we just talk a bit about what CPTSD is for people that maybe don't know what that is?
Okay.
Just a brief sort of touch on it.
Okay, so everybody's probably heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that can come from a shocking event. And so you have this shocking event, and then you can have flashbacks to it, and it can, upset your equilibrium. Remembering it can be traumatic and upsetting. CPTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and what that comes from is having a traumatic experience as a child that has been continuous and ongoing. So you're really living in an unsafe environment, and you never know. You're living on shifting sands. You never know what's going to happen next. So you might have a volatile family or a volatile member of your family. There might be some brutality there, any of the abuses that can go on. And they go on for a long period of time. And what that does is it dysregulates the nervous system. Now, the nervous system becoming dysregulated really helps us to survive that whole elongated system of trauma that we have. But it changes our ability or our experience of life deeply. So we might find that our nervous system will move into fight, flight, freeze, appease, or collapse at any point of the day, and it could come from something that we are conscious of or even unconscious of, and it can have deep repercussions in all of our relationships. So we could be triggered by a loved one's expression that we haven't consciously noticed, but our subconscious mind has gone, oh, I know what that look means. That means something. You need to defend yourself, or you need to run away, or you need to collapse, or be very passive. And the other person's like, what's going on? And you don't know what's going on. You just feel awful. So I'm sure that you can see from possibly that analogy or that description is that that can affect an awful lot of people.
Yeah,
That can
absolutely.
affect an awful lot of people. And up until recently, if we put indigenous wisdom aside, but mainstream medicine, if you will, and counselling and psychotherapy hasn't really understood that or what's going on there. So it's quite new in the field, and mostly it's treated with medication, which kind of caps it but doesn't solve the problem. And when it's really quite severe, it can really impede one's ability to actually function in the world and earn a living and all of that kind of stuff. And I think also up until recently, it's been thought of as something that cannot be healed. But we now know that it can be healed. We can go in through the body and we can heal the nervous system. The shamanic practices are really, really helpful for this. Part of the survival skills of the dysregulation of the nervous system is that in shamanic terms, we call it the soul part leaving. And we do a soul restoral for that. In sort of psychological terms, that might be called splitting. So that splits off. And we can go and we can retrieve that part. So very often it's an inner child part of us that has just popped out, because to feel the pain of the dysregulation of the pain of the experience, it's too overwhelming for a small child. So the survival skill is to disassociate from that. But then very skillfully, we can go back to that moment and we can get that little part and we can talk to her and we can hold her and we can tell her that she survived this. Because they kind of get stuck out in the ether of the psyche, and we need to tell them it's okay now, we've got you back. And
like
we
a
can
reintegration.
Exactly. And then as we work with them, something changes in the amygdala or in the deep memory processes, and we can heal that situation. We can hold her and bring her home, or him.
Yeah, amazing. So you're doing this work through this organization, you're bringing your practices to this organization, is that what you're doing at the moment?
Yes. So it's quite an innovative practice, I think, whereby we have trained psychotherapists, clinical psychotherapists supporting what we do, and they will work with us as well.
That's great.
So we've got a foot in each camp, and we hold that space really beautifully. The feedback that we're getting from the women is incredible, and the healing that they're finding from this, and to know that they're not incurable, and to recognize that they are feeling safer in their own skin, and that the world actually isn't this terrifying place that they're trying to navigate, all the while somebody telling them that they're a bit crazy, you know. And we reassure them that that's not the case, and we talk about the neurobiology of this, and we give them different practices, and we coach them in their practices, encourage them to do those at home, so they're building on their own healing as well as what we do within the group as well. So it's pretty amazing, and I do that work privately as well.
So how can people access this organization if they feel they need help? Is there plenty of info on the is it funded? How can they use the service?
Okay, so it's called Recovery Codex. It has a website, and you can speak with Anna, who's the founder. Up until now, it has been funded by donations and lottery funding. They've done work funded through the police force as well. So there's usually funded through applications and that kind of thing, but also some amazingly generous donations have come in. So what that has meant is that we've been able to provide a service that's free at the point of access.
Okay, yeah.
But what we are looking to do also is to open it up more, because getting the funding is quite a challenge. You have to do a lot of hard work to apply for funding. And what we'd like to do is bring it, I'm going to rewind a bit there. The funding at this time also means that it can only take place in Bedford or Bedfordshire. So you have to live in Bedford or Bedfordshire to access it. So what we want to do is we want to go national, offer a national service, and we want to have it as a fee-paying service at the point of access, so that that can help to fund those people who can't afford to pay a fee as well. And we also would like to have, moving forward in the next few years, a place that we can work from. At the moment it's all online, but we would really appreciate a building that's got a beautiful outside space where we can work from. Because the nature practices are very, very important. What we're doing is trying to calm the nervous system down. And being in nature is a massive thing to do that as well.
It's like it's an automatic plug-in, isn't it, to peace? when we're in nature, sitting on the floor, being with the trees, anything, it just it's an automatic plug-in. But you
know, and if you're if part of your triggering is being in nature, but you can go out in community and drum, you feel you're having a different experience. You can be in nature, you can be supported, and you can start connecting. So that starts to then underpin a different reality.
Definitely.
So there's so many different approaches that we have available to us.
Excellent. Right. Yeah, well, we can put some information about where people can access and how they can access that as well in the
that'd be amazing. Thank
with
you.
the video. So all right, well, I think we've probably come to a natural end there, so thanks ever so much for your time. It's been really interesting talking to you, as always.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's been a pleasure.